Greetings, everybody! Welcome to the Dracovin Empire! Are you ready to join me in gating our way to the realms, Golarion once more? I hope you are. That's the world setting of the Pathfinder role-playing game, and if you are ready, take my hand. I'm your guide and host here at Dracovin, that's going to be leading you through the gateway to this world very different than our own, through the multiverse, through the universe, to Golarion once more. Do remember to leave a little bit of tip for me, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We're heading to Golarion. Through the gates we go! We're not arriving just anywhere. We're arriving in Arcadia. A place that there is so little information on that there are only few sources that give us any idea about this entire continent. Now, granted, it is the probably second least known place. Only one above this when it comes to continents. But here we're also visiting one city, Segada. So if you're ready to learn about Segada and join me in an education about it, as we've arrived in the city of Keys, take my hand. Segada. Now if you do want to do some more field research, Distant Shores. It gives you a bit more information on locations within the city that I won't be talking about, and some adventure hooks. I'm not going to be talking about. I'll be talking about most of the other information, but there are some things that are in here I won't be. So, Segada. It does have a flag of its own, which would tell you it's its own nation, but it isn't. It's a city in a large nation. We'll talk about that in a second. But looking at Segada, it is a large city, a major trade hub for the nation that it is part of, Degasi. It has a population of around 20,000, of which majority is humans, but gnomes, halflings, weirwoods, skinwalkers, and others putting in the rest of it. It's a very restrictive place in a lot of ways, but also very supportive. Interesting differentiate that's got a lot of protections and laws in place that keep people in line because it is this connection between the world. That is the juxtaposition of Segada in a lot of ways. A pass through some perilous mountains, thousands of feet above sea level. That's where you find this place. Segada. A stronghold protecting these mountains. With craggy cliffs and mountains all around it. A place where mines and artisans bring their goods. A place where Aveston meets Arcadia. That's it. Now, again, we'll just address the big elephant in the room, Degasi. Why am I not talking about Degasi? Why isn't this episode called Degasi? Because we know nothing about Degasi. We actually know virtually nothing about the nation Segada is part of. The amount we know is it's a nation that the majority of the human population are of the Mawek humans. This is a Mawek person. We know it's one of 4 nations that are part of a trade coalition that was negotiated in Segada with the Avasti nations, the people from across the ocean, from when they come here. So we know that these 4 nations, including Degasi, have dealt with them. We know its capital is called Degasi. That's all we know about its capital. But we don't know its borders. We don't know its size. We don't know what's in Degasi. We don't know who rules Degasi. There is so little we know about it. It's as if it doesn't exist except by name. Segada, we know about. And we can see a picture of some of the Degasi culture in there because it is a Degasi city. But it is a cosmopolitan place, a trade location, so we're not getting the full picture of the culture of the people there. So Segada, we're talking about on its own. We're not going to be kind of talking about Degasi unless maybe we get that Arcadia book, and then I'll definitely do a video on Degasi on its own. But for now, we're going to learn about this pretty important trade city. So I hope you are ready to dive deep. Alright, let's learn more about it. Since it is incredibly important. I'm not going to lie, it really is. The city here is this kind of connection with the outside world. When you arrive here, it's a lengthy climb through treacherous foothills to this very welcome summit. Spread across stark variations in elevation, it's blanketed in long shadows in the dawn and twilight hours. The mountains around it. It's got towering pines, spruces, birches, elms, and maple trees that cover the mountains in a wash of green that shifts to 1,000 shades of burning red and orange and autumn. The city center is densely populated. In between the edges of the districts, homes and businesses become farther and farther apart. A line from lush gardens and open fields for children to play. Terraced gardens and homes carved out of the stone climb into the sides of cliff. That's an entrance. Most of the view of the buildings in those terraced areas command a view of the entire city. They're crafted of stone and timber and feature wood in the roofs. So some of the finer buildings use slate tiles in the roofs. A lot of the people there spend time outside, taking meals with their families in the various numerous parks, rocking in the shade of maple trees. Its districts. We should talk. It does have a unique geography in that basically the central district is the old city of Segada. But as the city grew in size, the population swelled, the central district basically became crowded. And the other districts had to expand out and allow new buildings in the edge of the city. So the central district still is the oldest part of it. It's got all the important buildings, city governments here, the largest parks can be found in here. We can talk about the two stacks and then the western lobes. The two stacks are separated. These are ridges overlooking the central district. Stacks. Land upon either side of the stack is expensive, and land is highly restrictive even for the wealthy, requiring the hopeful builders to seek a multitude of permits. The northern stack holds the Riverhead Amphitheater and thriving entertainment district that surrounds it, as well as a number of large estates and high-end shops on the eastern fair of the village. Important also note, they have something called climbers. What is a climber? Basically, builders have begun incorporating metal into their structures. These climbers that scale the cliff faces allow you to go up. Massive stone and metal bridges that go over gaps. The climbers that ferry people up the side of the cliff runs until late at night, and after it closes, revelers must descend a long staircase to return to their homes. And it's an unfortunately more than common thing that people will fall to their deaths on those stairs while very intoxicated. Don't let your friends walk down giant spiral staircase across a cliff face while drunk. Find a place of them instead. The southern stack serves primarily as a residential neighborhood for the elite of Segada. To protect the affluent Segadans who live there in the area, the city guard stands sentinel on the only access to the exclusive neighborhood. The Concadanda Bridge. They check pedestrian names against specific lists for those that will be permitted to enter the southern states. And those living in that area must contact the guard if they wish to retrieve visitors or have laborers work in their homes. So if you're going to send some for some people and have them up, you've got to contact the guards and let them know. The Western Lows, it wasn't an intentional creation for the city's government, but a lot of halflings and gnomes that moved into Segada gathered together in their own portion of the city in the Western Lows, a place colloquially referred to as the Small Quarter. Part of this city is home to many of the Arcadians who have moved to the city from the continent's interior. So basically, if you're moving into the city, you do tend to also move into this region here. It's probably the easiest one to move into the Western Lows, but you also get, hang out with a bunch of awesome gnomes and halflings. Let's talk about the city's history. This is an amazing picture of the city. So, it's found near a Queen water source. and a very safe section of the, I'm going to butcher this name, Arcadia Mountains. I'll be close enough. I try my best not to butcher these names. Segada stands where it was first used as a camp for hunters and travelers to cross the mountain. It grew from camp to village to city. Controlling this point has been difficult. A Sphinx monastery city in the mountains to the south considered this area where Segada was being formed near a waterfall sacred, and basically went after the Segada settlers. They had a bunch of bloody battlers and basically aided some heroes. They drove back the Sphinxes. And since that defeat, they really haven't bothered the city. After that, the Weirwoods from the Grinding Coast banded together in an effort to expand their territory and overtake the pass. It was a large town at this point, Segada. It was under attack by hundreds of these. Segada forces were decimated in the first onslaught, and then did to Degasi, the capital, for aid. Many from Degasi joined forces with them and basically fought against these the war machine constructs of their armies in a series of battles known as the Gear Wars. Those that came to Segada's aid during this time remained. They settled in the city. And by the time the war had ended, the city had tripled in size. And this may have really cemented their connections with Degasi as part of the nation. 100 years ago then, they discovered gold, coal, and valuable minerals in the mountains nearby. Hey, and now even more settlers came in here. From now, it was just a safe passage through these mountains from the coast to the inland of the continent. Now there's riches in the mountains also. So now our major trade hub, we got riches nearby, we're expanding again. So now we got the Avasti colonists arriving at the Grinding Coast. And Segada had grown to its current size and had its own relation with other Arcadian nations. And this is the leverage it had to negotiate with the Avasti settlers, these newcomers, and basically put together Segada Protocol, which is the agreement that determines how Arcadian nations deal with the Avasti. This isn't just a nation these people can come in and conquer, much to Cheliax's chagrin. There's people there that aren't necessarily friendly, and if you treat them wrong, and they got the strength to back it. Who's in charge? Well, it's autocracy, government, and currently in charge is this woman here, the mayor, Wanakena Abasu. She oversees the city government from the House of Keys, which holds the city council and dozens of licensing offices. All aspects of city life pass through the House of Keys at some point in time. And Avasti settlers have been petitioned to form their own embassy in the House of Keys. They haven't yet. We can kind of talk about that a little bit. They've had some trouble with various colonies and such, but, you know. They originally had permission for 3 colonies. One's been kind of destroyed. So there's 2 colonies currently. Yeah. Talking about these settlers in this region, their cities, might be a thing on their own to talk about as a group. Yeah. But it has diplomatic offices. Great Hall has members of, basically as people from the Arcadian coalitions that sign the protocol into law, will have representatives in here. So all 4 nations have representatives in the House of Keys. This also serves as the office for the mayor, whose residence, called the House of Tall Stones, is across the green from the House of Keys. So you get a nice residence across from city council, head of the place, while you are elected mayor. Let's talk about the people, though, for a little bit. Because we do have an idea of the people of Segada. Life is strictly regular. It's still a place of art and entertainment. Music and storyteller floats from taverns and theaters throughout the city. Lush parks provide space for people to partake in sporting pastimes. So there is a lot of regulation in place in Segada. Through experience, they've built this large level of regulation. You gotta have the right permits, you gotta have the right things. Still, the arts are great. The citizens here, largely quiet, contemplative people. They are reluctant to voice an opposition, comment, or answer a question too quickly. They reflect upon the entirety of the question and consider different elements before responding, if they respond at all, because they would take the opportunity to ponder as a gift. There are very few important decisions made hastily, and concern for the strength of the community is always paramount. Their culture is one that appreciates companionable silence. Feels no need to fill it. So quiet thought is great. Though again, good entertainment and good music, good storytelling, always important, which is the place for it. They do focus on maintaining a border, so they have incredibly strong military presence in their region. It will not be hard to miss. They look out bastions that stand on the ridges overlooking the lowlands, and the soldiers work as tight units in a variety of military maneuvers. They fight supernatural beasts, protect the city from monstrous constructs, secure the border against foreign influence. As much as they're a trade city, as much as they deal with a lot of other people, whether you are from another continent or another nation, you don't mess with Segada. They do have a strict dereliction between locals and foreigners. Still, even with that, they have strong social network influence. All people, including newcomers who have immigrated to the city, have what you need to survive. There's a few locations called mash houses that serve corn mash for free of charge throughout the day to those less fortunate. There are some alleys that have homeless youths sleeping beneath the eaves of buildings. The city does provide shelters that puts a roof above the heads of anyone that seeks help. Some only allow you to stay for a few days. Others will live their entire lives. Humans are the majority there, with halflings having a pretty big degree there from the Grinding Coast. Basically, if you are having a tough time on the Grinding Coast and want to be a little bit more civilized, a little more comfortable, you move to Segada. A lot of the humans are coming from inside the continent. The halflings are along the Grinding Coast. Interestingly enough, the recent generations have accepted Weirwood immigrants. Not all Weirwood are seen as enemies, even though there was a great war against them. There are still some Weirwood that honestly are very violent and dangerous, but those that are accepting to basically just integrate with their society are welcome. And gnomes from the tall peaks of the Acrandida mountains are also welcome. And hey, they're a creative and artistic folk, and their love of singing and dancing basically fills a lot of the dance halls and theaters. So, it's a city of traders, dealing of merchants and traders, dealing with a lot of trade nations from the 3 other nations in the region, and Degasi itself. They deal with even those halflings that haven't moved in. There's lots of tribes of halfling that bring lumber and wild game from a lot of the forest regions to trade with the city itself. The Weirwoods sometimes actually compete with them by bringing similar things. They're construct beings, they have a little bit more. It's a thing between them. And, you coming in, keep in mind the military, behave yourself. And now we have the Vastine settlers. People from the land of Linor King had been actually coming to this region from before. The northern outpost of Port Valoran was well known. Yeah. People from the land of Linor King had already been to this continent, already had settlement. It's outside the Segada protocols because they settled long ago and have been getting along very well for a long time. But yeah, the 3 settlements happened, now they're down to 2. Segada looks after in a lot of ways. as much as those cities are allowing, the settlements are allowing them to, Segada will look after them. They basically are smaller settlements in the area that are under their jurisdiction in a lot of ways. It's sort of like, you're allowed to settle in this area. It's on the edge of our territory. It's kind of outside, on the coast here, where we don't live. We live here. We deal with trade coming up from there, but our people are on the inside of the continent. We're still technically kind of in our territory, but we'll allow you to settle here. But you're under our protection. A lot of our jurisdiction. Again, I think I will talk about Segada protocols more in depth. When I talk about those colonies, I'll have to do that. The colonies from Aviston in Arcadia. There you go. There's Segada. A very interesting city. Part of a nation which is much larger that we know zero about. I wanted to talk about Segada because it does show a little bit more of Arcadia and why Arcadia is a very interesting continent to visit. Fire trucks. Ain't editing that one out. Anyway, very interesting example of Arcadian culture. And we don't have a lot of views of that. And it makes me want to know more about, honestly, Degasi, a lot of those other nations in the area, and a lot of this other region. It's one of those things that I hope it inspires you to maybe use as an example of a continent that is very little explored. Segada would be a great place for adventures, dealing with a very alien nature kind of thing. You're traveling to continents, but you're traveling to a continent that has had probably the least amount of contact with the outside world. They knew about the people from the land of Lindmerking, so they knew there were other people out there. But just until recently, the true nations of Avastia connecting with Arcadia haven't happened. Tianzi, Asmaron, Garund, all these continents have had trade and connections for generations and time to integrate and understand them. So that if I would travel to one of these places, if I'm from Avastia, Aviston, trying to say his name up. If I'm from the Inner Sea region, people would understand me. They would recognize me. They'd be able to tell me. They'd be able to ask me questions. Oh, you're from Taldor? Fascinating. I've only heard about that in tales. Tell me about it. But they've heard about it. Segada and in Arcadia, it's a new world. That's why we talked about Segada. And I hope you enjoyed diving into it. And I hope I can revisit Segada and talk about Degasi someday in the future. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a couple years from now. Maybe it'll be never. But I would love to do that. Just be like, hey, go check out my Segada video, or that scene in particular. Here's Degasi. We can learn about the rest of it. And until that, we go over here. I hope you enjoyed today. If you want to see more things that I do, hey, you can always go over to my YouTube channel and check out any other videos, whether you're over there now or after you've seen this video. If you want to see my stuff, of course, there. My schedule for uploads goes up online. Same with my schedule for stuff live, which includes recording my videos, doing some live plays, some video games if you want to go check out and hang out with me, maybe ask some questions. And of course, things like discussing Tabletop Saturday 6, where we talk about news of the week, deeper discussion topics. All that stuff, again, my schedule goes up on my social media. That's a great place to check it out, understand. Also, updates if anything changes on that schedule. That's my Discord, Blue Sky, Twitter/X. And of course, I do put the at least schedule up on my community part of my YouTube. Fire somewhere. Getting interrupted. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed joining me today, learning about Segada. Hope you check out some other stuff that I've done, etc., etc. See some more of my tabletop stuff, whether it's Pathfinder, Golarion related, something else related. Until the next time, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.